Hi and welcome everyone to our live stream event on humanitarian education. My name is Yeni Simon and I'm an ISL Youth Education Program Officer with the International Humanitarian Law Team at the American Red Cross. And today I have an amazing group of individuals joining me. Here in the room we have Shannon Vance, who is a youth volunteer with the American Red Cross. Welcome, Shannon.
Thank you.
And we also have two online guests, the first one being Ariel Kestens, who is the head of Learning and Research Department at the International Federation of the Red Cross. And we also have Jacob Ingelgren, who is the Senior Advisor for Volunteer Development at the Swedish Red Cross. Thank you so much for joining us today. And to our online audience, please, we really want this to be a conversation, so remember to tweet your questions and comments using the hashtag #HumanityInWar. So I think at this time, I'd like to begin the conversation with you, Ariel, actually, and I'd like to ask you, first and foremost, what is humanitarian education?
Humanitarian education is about values, right? It's about helping a new generation, children, young people, sometimes adults, to develop values, to care for themselves and to care for others. And humanitarian education is the education that provides us, that provides the space for us to nurture our values and the type of value that will help us to help ourselves and that will help us to help others, if I have to put it in a few lines, a few sentences.
Perfect, thank you, Ariel. Also, I wanted to ask more specifically, what's the Humanitarian Education Initiative itself? And when did it start and who can join? And what are the goals of this initiative by the IFRC and the national societies across the world?
Well, Humanitarian Education Initiative started a few years ago with the decision of one of our international conference, and everybody can join because humanitarian education it's not owned by us or neither by the Red Cross. I mean, it's about understanding that values are important to frame our mindset, our attitudes, our behavior, and therefore an education that is based on values is an education that bring to us much more than an education that is thinking only in how we can get our next job, right? So everybody can join. There will be, as part of our conversation now, some demonstration on how to join our platform and how to share the different activities that we are doing. And in fact, I would say that not only that everybody can join, but if we start to think a bit in the framework of adding value or nurturing values to the rest of the training, learning, and education that we are doing, we will actually realize that most of us are already doing somehow humanitarian education in our own context, settings, and areas.
That's awesome. I really like the idea of being inclusive and sort of asking others to join. But now that you mentioned that some of us are actually doing humanitarian education without even knowing about it, do you have any examples of projects or initiatives that you've heard of before that embody what humanitarian education is?
Yeah, sure. For example, we have one of the Red Cross societies, the Korean Red Cross. They do once a year a General Assembly. They call it Model General Assembly. What's a Model General Assembly is? Well, they bring all the young people of the country through a selection process into a General Assembly that resembles the General Assembly of the Red Cross and Red Crescent. And in that General Assembly, the young people that participate, they can put themselves in the shoes of humanitarian decision makers, and they are challenged with dilemmas that they need to discuss, debate, and take a decision about that, right? So this is not the humanitarian education on our day-to-day life, but this is humanitarian education from the point of view of the impact that our decision of today can have in tomorrow. And our decision of today can have in today's humanitarian developmental problems, but also in tomorrow's humanitarian and development societal problems, hopefully avoiding them. That could be one example of an activity that can easily be framed within the humanitarian education or umbrella. Then let me give you another example that probably is a more we will probably not relate that to humanitarian education that easily, but it is at the center of humanitarian education. And this is the example of first aid courses. So when we go and learn first aid courses or CPR courses, we learn a series of skills and knowledge that would actually help us to help somebody else. If there is an accident, if we walk on the street, etc. But there is a very important difference between learning and knowing the skills and having the knowledge and actually putting it into practice. See that an accident happened and go there and try to help. Many of us may just walk through it and ignore the fact that somebody needs help. Humanitarian education is about nurturing the will to actually do something with the skills and the knowledge that we have to help others. So while in our first aid training or CPR training, we learn about that will of helping others through catalyzing the humanitarian principles or the fundamental principles of the Red Cross, or humanitarian values, into nurturing that will. That's humanitarian education as it most.
Wow, that's I think a really powerful example and something that we don't think about often. It's how I really like the expression you use about nurturing the will to actually help others. And I think that touches a little bit upon my next question, which was why it's important. Why should our online audience care about humanitarian education? And I think you sort of mentioned it, but if there's something else you want to add to that, feel free to do so.
Yes, in this, I think I'm a bit radical. I think it's important humanitarian education because helping ourselves and helping others, it's at the center of us being happy, right? Compassion for others. The understanding of the role that we play in this world is all about our values. It's all about what we can do for others and what we can do for ourselves, right? Instead of just thinking of getting educated to get a better job or get a promotion, etc. That's a paradigm of happiness that is not necessarily the one that the younger generation is looking to.
Great.
So this is why humanitarian education is very important, in addition to, of course, addressing today's humanitarian problems and addressing or probably avoiding tomorrow's humanitarian problems.
Thank you so much, Ariel, for sharing your insights. I think it's really important to understand how adults who advocate for humanitarian education, how they see it, how they think it could influence people's lives. Now, I want to turn over to Shannon because I also want to make sure that we have an understanding of why is humanitarian education important from the viewpoint of young people. So, Shannon, here's my question. Why do you think it's important that young people are exposed to humanitarian education?
Well, I would really echo what Ariel just said. I think that educating the youth of today can really stop a lot of the problems that are going to come down the road. And being just internationally informed on what's going on and how that you can help and things like that make you a better global citizen. And I think as a youth who's interested in that, that's important.
Awesome. Shannon, now, can you talk to me a little bit about some of the, we know we have you here because you've been involved with humanitarian education. What are some of the skills you've gained through the process of being involved with this kind of approach?
Well, before I ever kind of set foot into humanitarian education, I hadn't ever been exposed to it. It's not a big part of American education. So I think the biggest things that I learned is awareness, but then also through working with the teams that I did, team building was a really big thing, and figuring out how to get this important message across with a group of people who are equally inspired was really helpful. I think aside from that, just learning how to spread a message was probably one of the biggest things I took away.
That's great. Now, Would you mind, and this might be a little bit of a hard question, but if you had to choose a moment, a powerful, intense, life-changing moment, or most memorable experience within your journey in humanitarian education, which one would it be and why?
That's tough.
I know.
I think what I would say, during my junior year, we educated a bunch of freshmen at my college, so they were in their first year, and they were part of a psych experiment that we did through our psychology department, where we ran them through the prisoner of war post in Red Cross and put them into this humanitarian situation, made them feel really uncomfortable, and then kind of stepped back and talked to them about it and got their inputs on how they felt, how they think that humanitarian education affects them, and things like that. And it was really inspiring to see all of these freshmen who had no idea what they were about to be exposed to or really anything about humanitarian education grow and come into it, and then subsequently be interested in the issues that followed. Really kind of propelled me through. I hold that memory really close. So.
Awesome. And for those of you who are not familiar with Red Cross, is actually an experiential learning tool. It's like a role-playing simulation that walks you through the realities of armed conflict and humanitarian action. Is actually one of the projects considered to be an example of humanitarian education. So it's something we highly recommend for people interested in educating youth on IHL topics. Thank you so much, Shannon, for sharing with me. I want to take this moment to remind the audience to tweet your questions and comments and ideas, anything you want really to be part of this conversation using the hashtag #HumanityInWar. And now I'm going to move to the second portion of this conversation, and it's how can you join the initiative? How can you be part of this, especially online? Because we're all in different parts of the world, so I want to make sure everyone can come together. And so I'm going to talk now to Jacob and ask him about this really neat platform that the Red Crescent movement has available for people to come together and not only learn about humanitarian education, but also other courses. So, Jacob, here's my question for you. Talk to me about the platform. What is the platform?
Hi. First of all, I have to say thanks for inviting us, and very nice to be part of this work. And also, I think as a movement, the Red Crescent movement, we're dealing with the same challenges like the IHL, and it's great to be part of this family. And the learning platform is actually also an initiative that it's really global. It's right now, I mean, we haven't seen the full potential yet, but now it's a learning management system, the learning platform. There are courses there. For example, Swedish Red Cross, we use it for online training, e-learning for our 30,000 volunteers. So it's a very important part of our introduction, also for the basic Red Cross knowledge, like the fundamental principles and also humanitarian values. That is the Red Cross, and it's really important when we provide our services that people have a great introduction, that they can be introduced to the Red Cross fast to bring quality and great services. And also right now my mind is really full of the situation right now here in Europe with the refugee situation. We actually, in Sweden, we are a nation with 9 million people, so that's like smaller than New York, but but they're spread over a larger area. But still, we have approximately 190,000 refugees, asylum seekers coming to Sweden this year only, and this really creates a lot of engagements as well from the public, from the communities, and people really want to join the Red Cross because we're providing services and trying to provide services all around the country to help the refugees with integration when they arrive, and for us that e-learning is crucial to be able to provide to introduce a lot of the influx of new engagement, new volunteers. So we've been using this platform for 5 years, and we have a variety of courses, from the basic courses to more specific courses. And for example, our volunteers working with restoring family links. So we're developing new courses all the time and finding new ways we're learning, and also that's great to be a part of the community with Ariel's crew, is the secretary in Geneva, and also other national societies. It's great that there's courses in a lot of different languages. That's even greater now for us, because we're having a lot of volunteers coming in that don't speak Swedish. Maybe they know English, but mainly maybe in Arabic, and that's great to have courses that are in Spanish, Arabic, French. So we're using those courses as well.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jacob. Also, I think this fits into my next question for you, which is, what are some of the main features of the platform? And I think you mentioned the fact that you have several languages available. Are there any other highlights of the platform that sort of make it different from other ones?
I think that the Red Cross, Red Crescent feeling is there's a lot of platforms out there, and well, sometimes, of course, it's your individual taste that matters, what you like about a platform or not. But I think that the learning platform is great because it's a joint movement platform, and there you really get the Red Cross feeling on the platform. It feels like this is a international platform. I think that our volunteers, they do their job in Sweden, and I think it's really inspirational to get that feeling that I'm a part of this network. I'm maybe helping refugees here in Sweden, but there are people you hear in the news, but there are people all over the world trying to make the world a bit better, and I'm a part of that network, and taking these courses. Also, you can find exciting courses, like safety courses, and I'm not sure how exciting that is, but still it's more important courses, and you can find inspiration. And I think that we need to explore there's a lot of things that we haven't yet had time to explore, like the social functions, and so on. I think it gets a huge potential of especially now, when for us as a small national society, when the American Red Cross with a huge amount of volunteers joining, I think and if you produce courses in English that our volunteers and our staff can take, and I think that's great news for us.
Now, so you mentioned something about the social function. Can you talk a little bit more about that to clarify for the online audience? What are you referring to?
We haven't explored it yet, but I think that it would be interesting as a volunteer manager, for example, to provide tasks and have a follow-up. The learning platform actually started as an HR tool, and I think that with our national society, with our 30,000 volunteers spread out all over the country, and also that the need for support that goes from the furthest north of Sweden, where they have housing for refugees, like right on the top, close to like in the borders between Finland and Norway, and to be able to provide introduction and education up there, and maybe also to provide a platform for communication with learning. As a volunteer manager, you can provide a group on the learning platform and see that you can provide tasks for your group, that you should take this course and that, and you can have a discussion around it. And I think that could be a complement to other, like, social media and so on. But it's us as national societies that actually, I mean, we are the movement. We are the IFRC. So when we experience needs and we can communicate that, and together we can see what we can do with the platform. Is that right, Ariel?
Excellent.
Great. Well, thank you, Jacob, for explaining and sort of walking us through what's the purpose of the platform and how it can be useful for national societies and beyond that. I think I'm going to take a moment now, because the platform itself has a space for the Humanitarian Education Learning Portal, which is where people interested in this topic can come together. And it's sort of a really amazing network of young professionals, educators, volunteers who are interested in finding and sharing best practices, projects, programs to be able to advance the mission of humanitarian education. So I'm gonna take the time to show you how to go, where to find it on the website and the kind of topics that we have. So basically, you first go to the IFRC website, and then under the Get Involved tab, you'll find Learning, Education, and Training. And so if you click there, and your internet works, let me see. So you go to Get Involved, you go to Learning and Education Training. And usually when it actually works, it's going to show you on the right-hand side, it's a red box that it says register or login. And when you click on, if you're a new user, of course, you have to register. And it's very simple. You only need to include your name and sort of your affiliation with the Red Cross or with any other organization you belong to. And after that, you can go and you will be able to access the learning platform. And so I'm not sure why my internet's being very slow right now. Let me see. So this is how the welcoming page looks like. And so in this home portion is all the courses that Jacob mentioned. But then if you move to humanitarian education, you'll have a couple of options on the side. One of them is to reach out. And this is the opportunity to share a video that sort of highlights what the initiative is about. Then the second one will be go to the help community. And when you go to the help community, let's try it. I'm not sure it's going to work because my internet is really slow. Okay, perfect. So when you go to the help community, you'll have access to different topics. And these topics, and I think the importance of showing this is because this is not only for ISL, although we've been talking about ISL today with Shannon, but also for a variety of topics that you might be interested in. So for instance, if you go on the active citizenship, you'll find options for other subtopics like diversity and non-discrimination, or human dignity, or migration. And so included within these folders are different projects that people have shared before. And it provides an opportunity for others to comment on your projects, provide feedback, but also reach out to you if they have questions or they want to implement it in their own national societies. So I think it's an excellent, so if you see the social function here, it's sort of similar to Facebook in like you can like it, you can reply, you can see how many people have viewed it. So you have an idea of whether people are connecting with your projects and whether you can reach out to others and form really interesting partnerships. So that's one of the options. Now, you could also go to Connecting the World, and that is going to provide you, and it's taking long, so I had uploaded it here, with a map. And this map, when you click on the different points, you could usually see a brief description of the project, the contact person, and how you can go about implementing it. So some of my pages are a little bit slow, but for instance, here you could see, just click on the map, and then it'll give you a short summary of the different projects. So I think that's something to take advantage of. And lastly, I wanted to mention also when you go to the help community, you have the opportunity to do an advanced search. And there you could really see, so let's just say we want to look information on disaster, right? And then you go to Connect. And this is going to give you a variety of projects. And some of them are actually like a summary of what we've done before in, let's say, 90 national societies have different kits available, projects, activities that you could use for disaster preparedness. So I just really wanted to take the time to introduce you to this really interesting online tool and encourage you to take the time to check it out. So that is one way to get involved with humanitarian education, but just going and creating an account. It's free, it's in different languages, and I think it's a really neat opportunity to take advantage of. But also, there are other ways to get involved, and one way is the Humanitarian Education Storytelling Campaign. So Shannon, do you want to just tell people what that's about?
Yeah, so, well, first of all, that portal is incredible. Having the opportunity to learn about these things, even if you can't get them in academic situations, is life-changing, I guess. But so the Red Cross has this really cool campaign. It's a storytelling campaign where we want youth to send in videos, pictures of themselves partaking in humanitarian education, showing how it affects them, showing how they involve themselves in it every day, so that we can kind of spread the word and tell people how important this is to our generation and to youth everywhere.
Thank you, Shannon. So if for audience online, if you know of an amazing young person who has been touched or impacted by humanitarian education or is currently actually spearheading or embracing this approach, just encourage them to submit a short story. It could be a 1-minute video or some pictures and a short blurb, like sharing with us why humanitarian education is important to them. And so the way to share that story is you could actually, if you are already registered in the portal, or you will be hopefully after this, you can share it there, but also you could send it to the IHL youth at redcross.org, and we'll be sharing that email in our Twitter account so that you know that you can submit the stories and we'll post them for you. So I think it's just a really simple way to support the initiative. And before I give you the opportunity to ask questions to our speakers and myself, I want to give Ariel a chance to tell us what's next, what's happening next, what's in store for the initiative. So.
Well, next, we have a very important event, a unique event coming in a couple of months, in the beginning of December here in Geneva. It's a quite unique event because all the Red Cross, Red Crescent societies around the world, 199, come together with the states in an opportunity during 2 days to have a dialogue between the states and the Red Cross that very few, I would say none of other organizations has this kind of event of conference once every 4 years. So for us, it places us in the Red Cross in a very unique position and situation to have the opportunity to influence and to dialogue with states and governments in a peer, let's say, one-to-one approach. During that event, we are having a side event focused on humanitarian education. And we have 3 goals there. First is to learn from each other and share innovative ways of doing humanitarian education across 199 countries or context settings, etc. The second is to present our vision, to discuss our vision with the governments, and to see, third, how they can join or we can partner together to really scale up humanitarian education by, among other things, signing a pledge. In this pledge, which is a standard tool that we use in our international conference, national societies of the Red Cross and governments pledge for things like, for example, including values or including the teaching of value or the development of nurturing of values into the curricula that is being taught at primary school, secondary school, and university. They also pledge to come together to start to work on values-based education in other settings that may not necessarily be the formal setting of schools and universities. But mostly, they pledge for attracting the attention to the fact that values is as important as skills and competencies and knowledge in developing the current generation and the next generation of adults, of people in this world.
Thank you so much, Ariel. I think this is a really good way to close up this part of the discussion, because it gives everyone an understanding of how we're moving forward and how we're actually trying to work with governments and ministries to make this happen and to actually bring more people on board. So thank you so much to Jacob and Ariel and Shannon for sharing your insights. It's been a really nice conversation. Now, I want to give the online audience an opportunity to send their questions. So I'm ready whenever we have any questions from the online audience. So one of the questions is, okay, so someone is asking to clarify, is the platform limited only to Red Cross employees and volunteers, or can other people access it?
It's open. I forgot to tell that. That's a great question, because it's open for everybody. You don't need to be a registered volunteer in Red Cross. It's open for everybody, and that's one of the success factors. I think that's great.
Okay, great. So anyone can go and register for it and be able to access all the courses, the classes, post projects about humanitarian education. That's correct. Okay.
Yeah, everything.
Oh, okay. So someone's asking, do you have partnerships with other organizations to advance this agenda? And if not, which ones would you like to bring on board to increase it, to bring more attention to the topic? So anyone really who can answer the question? Ariel, do you have any idea?
Yes, yes, sure. Of course, what is important, one of the beauty of the Red Cross is that most of our collaboration and cooperation takes place at the very local level. So from the global level, it's a challenge to actually track and give you an answer and say, yes, we have so many partnerships and so many collaboration and cooperation. But of course, they are organizations that we work with. We work with the Scout, for example, in many countries, in many different settings and contexts. We work with the Young Association of Women and Young Women Association and Young Men Association in many different countries. We work with the local schools, of course, and with several different kind of local associations or local group of people that are sharing the values and our intention to nurture values in addition to skills and knowledge.
Now, this is a follow-up question on that. If someone would be interested, let's say I want to go and talk to UNICEF to bring them on board and sort of have them join the platform and share their projects, is there a specific presentation available, a kit, some advice that you have that we can give people to be able to go and advocate, or is it something that you're looking for people to come up with their own ideas on bringing people on board?
I would say both. We have first we have the help, right? That Jacob just explained how to get there. One of the beauties of the help is that one can go there and see success activities, project program efforts that have taken place around the world in different places. And one way of approaching a partner and started a conversation in relation to cooperate and collaborate in relation to this matter is to say, look, this has been successful somewhere else, and we have those examples. Of course, that then we need to adjust, localize those activities into our own context, into our own setting, for them to make even a higher impact. But it's a very good starting point to go to the platform and to learn what happens somewhere else. So in our conversation with potential future partner, we have already some evidence that the program is working. In addition to that, of course, we have a series of presentations and a toolkit that can be used to present the vision, the mission, the philosophy of the Humanitarian Education Initiative to others, interested parties. And third, last but not least, of course, that we count on the initiative and on your own ingenuity there, because nothing will be able to replace, nothing that we can provide to support you in that conversation will be able to replace your own way of being smart, your own knowledge of the situation, your own understanding of the partner and people you are talking with. That is irreplaceable, and that, of course, we count on you in that sense.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Ariel. That's really helpful. My next question is actually for Shannon. And Shannon, someone's asking, how would this tool have helped you with your campaign? Have you known about it before? And I think it'll be helpful for people to know a little bit about the Agile Action Campaign, so they have some background information, but how would it have helped you with your project?
Oh, well, so the Agile Action Campaign is, well, my lifeblood, I guess, for the past 3 years. It gives youth an opportunity to come together to create projects. We did a lot of simulations on my campus to do peer-to-peer education on these important issues. So had we known about this platform and had it been more popular and more common, it would have helped kind of onboard a lot of people. I think we started with a group of people who had international affairs backgrounds, but that was the extent. My university was pretty small, so we didn't have any classes on humanitarian education, so this could have really filled the void. We also could have had the opportunity to learn from other people. It was really grassroots for us, and learning and trying to figure out exactly how we were going to approach these topics and how it was best for us to get the word out to our peers. So having this platform would have been really, really helpful, just to get everyone else's opinion, and then also to share our successes, which would have been great as well.
Thank you, Shannon. And actually, the next question is also a little bit for you, but I think, please, Jacob and Ariel, feel free to share your thoughts as well. So how can we really make humanitarian education more attractive to young people? Because I think there's a group of people who are already interested in these topics, as you were mentioning, people who are pursuing international studies. And how can we really, because I'm sure once they see the platform, once they see the projects, they'll be interested, but how to get their attention from your viewpoint as a young person, but also I'd like to hear the thoughts of my colleagues online.
I think the biggest thing is you have to make it relatable. When we were running these simulations with the younger freshmen, we had a lot of people who were, I guess, bored because they didn't see how it related to them, and how being here in the United States, where we don't have big humanitarian issues, how they should care, why they should care. So telling them that it's not just issues that they see in video games that they play, it is a big deal globally, and how we talk to them a lot about soldiers and people in the military, because that is the component that people can relate to. Here in the States, it is a little bit hard to grasp onto it, but it's definitely doable. So I think making it relatable is definitely the biggest leap. But once you do that, I think more people would be interested.
Awesome. Ariel, do you have any thoughts on that? I know, I mean, this
sure.
is you work on
and
this.
to building what Shannon was saying, I think it's key also to develop the understanding that humanitarian issues are issues of everyday issues. It's not something very big that happens somewhere else, that we label with being an humanitarian issue. It's also the person that is suffering of gender-based violence in our neighborhood, is the person that maybe, as in the example of the first aid, needs immediate help there, right? So translating the fundamental principles of universal humanitarian values into our reality of every day is part of the learning process, and is part of us being educated that humanitarianism is something that it's around us every day, and by changing that, and this is everybody say the same, by changing this we can change the world, right? But it's very important that we can start by what is close to us. And in that sense, for example, there are two toolkits in the help, in the platform. One is called the Youth Agent for Behavioral Change Toolkit, that through a series of exercise, dancing, games, even lessons like presentations, people develop the intra and interpersonal skills to deal with those daily situations, and they become agents of change, right? In their daily life, in their context, in the settings where they are, and through changing that, they help to change the world. And there is another toolkit. It's called positive images, and that has very much, it's linked to what Jacob said before. It's about enhancing and highlighting, profiling the values of other people. We are using that kit very much during the migration crisis now here in Europe, and it's about saying that somebody else also have a lot from what we can learn, and presenting that perspective from the values of that person, and why those values are also important in our society, are also important in the context where we are. So there are two resources in the platform to promote this. One is the Youth Agent of Behavioral Change toolkit, and the other is Positive Images toolkit that can be useful to increase that ownership in your context, in the grassroots context.
Now, Ariel, a follow-up question to that is, at this age specific, is it so people working with children or like young adults, can they use either kit, or are there some restrictions on these kits to be used?
Yeah, that's a perfect question, because the Youth Agent for Behavioral Change toolkit is for people over, or for children and adolescents over 12 years old. The other toolkit, the Positive Images toolkit, is from the age between 12 and 25.
Oh, great.
So one have a minimum age of 12 years onwards. The other bracket age between 12 and 25 years old. Great.
And so are these toolkits available in multiple languages? So let's say someone finds them online using the platform. How is it, in your experience, do people reach out to you and say, well, this is in French, how can I have it translated? Or like, how does that work? Because I know that the platform has a lot of resources in different languages, but I also know, because I post some of my programs there, that I post them in English only. So what's the process there?
Yes. Some of the global toolkits, like the two toolkits that I mentioned, they are available in more than English. Normally in Spanish, French, and sometimes in Arabic. But by contacting through the platform, let's say the owner of the kit, the person who has been developing the kits, and the team that can be sit here in the Secretariat in Geneva or somewhere in the world, you may easily access to other language version of the same toolkit. Because what it's usually happen is that the toolkit, people see that they are valuing the toolkit, let's say in Japan. So the Japanese Red Cross or some other organization in Japan that does the translation of the toolkit into Japanese and the localization, and that the focal point of the toolkit knows about that. So if you need the toolkit in Japanese, then it's easy to contact them, and they will be able to provide that back to you.
Okay, well, for anyone who was nervous about being able to get the kids or any of the programs or projects in your own language, I think Ariel was very clear as to how this works. And so my next question, so Ariel, you referenced the pledge and wanting to get governments on board. And so someone is asking, what challenges do you anticipate from government and ministries in making this happen, especially here, at least in the States? We have overworked teachers that don't have enough hours in the day to actually make it through the basic classes that you need. So what are some of the challenges? And so Jacob, you also feel free to talk about what do you anticipate with some of the challenges.
I can start by mentioning two challenges, and one has already been pointed out by the person who posed the question. Everybody wants a space in that few hours that the teacher is in front of children in the classroom. And why? Because obviously it's so important, that period of growth and learning for the future of people, that we want to influence that moment. So that's part of the challenge, to let's say, to gain a portion of that share, or a share of that time that the teacher is there. The second challenge, and this is the challenge that we are convinced that we can gain and persuade governments, and they are already changing and thinking in those terms, so we are not the only one moving this idea forward, is that to be prepared for tomorrow is less about being prepared for a job, which is still very important, and it's more about being prepared for life, being prepared for being happy, being prepared for understanding what role we play in this world. It's about developing the values and the skills and also knowledge to play a role in this world, which is not necessarily what the education system is thinking about today. And governments do think of in those terms in many parts of the world, and they are making a lot of progress there. There is a conference now in the beginning of January in London, is the Education World Forum, in which topics like quality of education and happiness, or teaching for happiness, are an important, are taking a significant part of the agenda.
Thank you, Ariel. Jacob, do you have anything to add, some of your thoughts on what challenges you might anticipate?
It's interesting, great questions, and I think that living in this kind of globalized world, this is a movement to be counted with, and we see, for example, I think we have to keep two thoughts at the same time here. Work both the government level, and that's with the international conference coming up. I mean, we have a unique role with this Red Cross movement to have that kind of access, and to be able to discuss policies with head of states and so on, but also to see our role as not only Red Cross but the grassroots movement. Before I used to work as a secondary school teacher, and when the students came up with an initiative, I think that would be wrong of me not to elaborate on that. So I think that this kind of grassroots movement with bring up humanitarian education and humanitarian values, that we need to be more educated and discuss this more. I think that's one way to go. So we work both the government level and also grassroots. And for example, in Sweden, there's a lot of problems with xenophobia and so on. So I think that the governments also experience that we need to have humanitarian education as well. We have to be able to educate our youth as well as elders in this to have this kind of society that we want. Also with IHL, we've been campaigning for 20 years on the Swedish government to get IHL into the curricula, and we as a nation we haven't been at war. We had deployed troops through EU and UN so far outside the country, but we haven't been in war since the beginning of the 1900s. So of course we discussed as a nation why should we have IHL in the curricula. Then we provided information that, come on, we have about 30, because of immigration, and we have about 30% of all our students in schools have experienced war in some way. So this is part of the global world. So we need to work with the humanitarian education. If we do it in Sweden or in US or in Geneva, it doesn't matter. It all matters, and we influence each other and so on. That was some of my thoughts.
Thank you, Jacob. Shannon, I think you also wanted to add something, your own thoughts on challenges.
Yeah, I just have a quick note. I totally understand firsthand about how overworked our teachers are in the States, but I think what is so great about this program is that the teachers really only need to be an advisory role in some situations, because students can really do it themselves. So if you have an interested body of students, they can really kind of take it from there and move forward, and it is still included in maybe not everyday education, but it's still being disseminated, and I think that makes the program really unique.
Thank you. Actually, Ariel, could you clarify some of what's the timeline here? It's like you have the UN development goals, and then you have this amount of time to make it happen, and if not, you sort of switch and change your approach. So do we have a timeline here for what do we want to accomplish by when?
Honestly, good planning tells us that we should have a deadline. But we understand that we are dealing with something that goes very, very deep in the way we do education, in the way we think about education. So our deadline is maybe 1 decade, 2 decades ahead of us to start to see some of the impact of what we are trying to promote today, right? In that sense, what we believe is that we will increasingly be seeing more and more of this in one way or another being mainstream into formal education across the world. And as I mentioned before, there are already governments that are taking the first steps towards that. We can obviously not say that this is thanks to us. We are one more actor in this. It happens that our fundamental principles in the Red Cross, humanitarian universal values, are very much close to the kind of value that we think should be nurtured into the new generation, into children, elders, and also elders. And it happened that because of that reason, we have a role to play. And we can take the lead in different aspects of this discussion and conversation. But certainly we don't have like a target, like say we want several number of million of children having learned this and that. Our target, it will be that every child in the world, that's our vision, every child in the world nurtures and develops the value to care for themselves and for others. And when we can reach every child in the world, it may happen in a couple of decades, probably.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's an amazing goal to have. Now, because of the internet here, I couldn't show you really how many people we have, both in particular in the HELP, which is the learning platform for humanitarian education. So if you could share just a little bit about how many people are using this platform, both the general one, but also HELP more specifically, so people have an idea of how many people are already on board with this approach. And
yes,
it could be an estimate. You don't have to be exact, and I'm putting you on the spot, but just to give people a sense of involvement.
The numbers I know the numbers by heart. There are over 175,000 users in the learning platform, and they are between 3,000 and 5,000 new users every month. This I have just received the statistic of last of September, and there were over 5,000 new users coming to the platform, and the platform is very active in the sense that most of the users are completing courses. We have an outstanding completion rate above the industry average in the sector. This in terms of the learning platform and the online courses that the participant can take, right? In the HELP initiative itself, which is a community in which practitioners of humanitarian education can come and discuss ideas and find resources, as Jacob explained. There are over 1,000, to be precise, 1,062 practitioners of educators that are already sharing ideas, uploading the project and activity that they think are successful in their own context, and contributing to the discussion. So that's a very good center to find expertise and know-how on how to advance the initiative at the grassroots level in the local context.
Great. Okay, so I think we're getting ready to finish this session, but I wanted to give you an opportunity to say final thoughts for your online audience. If you want them to really walk away with something really short to point message of what they should be doing and why they should be embracing this is the time to say it. Shannon?
Jacob.
Oh, okay. So.
Oh, Shannon, whatever.
Okay, Shannon, go ahead.
I think if I had to say like one succinct thing, it would just be to get involved. It's so important to be involved in these programs and help disseminate that message. So I think anything that you can do, just get involved.
Thank you. I'm going to turn over to Ariel or Jacob. Who wants to go?
I can go. Try it out. Just go online, log in on the learning platform, and experience it and explore it. See what you find there. I mean, a lot of different interests. There's a lot of different courses and learning opportunities, and yeah.
Thank you, Ariel.
That's my final message.
Well, I would say imagine your future as a person in this world, and see what do you want to be. And I'm pretty sure that happiness will be somewhere in that answer. And for that, it's important and you will see that within that answer of happiness, it's so critical to help others and to help ourselves. And it's about values. So think about your future, and you will immediately see how that links to values, and of course, then get involved.
So you've heard them. Get involved, try it out, and think about your future and your role and your values. And so really take the opportunity to explore humanitarian education for yourself and for future generations. So with that, I think we're coming to an end. I want to take this time to thank Ariel and Jacob for joining us, and Shannon, of course, for being here. And if you have other questions and comments, or if you get to watch this later, especially because it's really early in the United States and the Americas, you can go ahead and tweet some of your questions and comments using the hashtag #HumanityInWar, and we'll make sure to look at those questions and get back to you. And also you have an opportunity to join the storytelling campaign by either posting your stories on the HELP platform after you create your account, or you can email them to youth@redcross.org. So thank you so much for your time, and I hope everyone has a great day.
Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.